October 27th, already the end of October. I am flying Ryan Gokers along with, in the
Tampa
different studio.
Tampa Motor Mouth Joel Verone here, getting ready for. Actually, we're in the major portion of the Halloween ad everything blitz.
Yeah, what do you feel about Halloween? Because I have the unpopular opinion that I despise it. I think it's the worst holiday we have, not named New Year's and New Year's Eve. Um, I just don't enjoy it.
I just tend to remember the worst part about it was when I did retail and you had the clearance with the candy the day freaking after. Oh my god.
Yeah. Between that, the fact that I'm not like a big sweets person to begin with, and I didn't like dressing up as the fat version of things, because as a bigger person, you can't just be like, I'm going to be this character. You are the fat version of that character. Not a big fan of the Halloween personally. Much more Thanksgiving because, fat guy likes
Yeah,
food, and
you know,
Christmas
when I was a
personally.
kid, I don't think I really cared much from the whole dressing up and going out and trick or treating thing. So it just I know it's that, as you would say, it's an unpopular opinion, but I don't know. I just, as a kid, that never tended to really excite me. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, Halloween is one of those very polarizing. You either love it or you don't like it at all. And I do think being from Florida, it kind of ruins Halloween because it's 84 degrees on trick or treating nights. Instead, you don't get that cool, crisp fall. Like I've been up north in October in
let's go.
Massachusetts.
Let's go out and fry!
Yeah,
Yay!
I've been up north in like mid October. It's like 35, 40 at night, maybe in the low, 50-ish range. And you have this crisp autumn air and it kind of feels different. Down here, it's like, it's hot. I don't want this. Let me go buy at Walmart. Let me go to Walmart and buy a bunch of candy on November 1st when it's on sale. Anyways,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Because
yeah,
is the most. Do you? I tend to think that they're a bit on the sickening side. Are you a candy corn fan
no,
or no? Okay, yeah,
no.
yeah. That was
Um, I'm
yeah, yeah.
not much of a sweet person. I'm also not in the business of disguising a turd as a candy, because that crap's garbage. It's
Yeah,
awful.
yeah, because there's actually an energy drink, G Fuel, that came out with a candy corn flavored energy drink. I'm like, I think I'll pass.
No. All right.
Yay, yay! If you want to have a drink that causes you to vomit, there you go.
Yeah, they have that in the medical profession too. And it's probably better tasting than the candy corn flavored energy drink. All right. Anyways, let's jump in because there's some injury stuff that we got to talk about because this was a
Yeah.
bad week. Let's.
Especially because you started off last week was bad enough, of course, with Javante Williams, why,
He was already gone.
and then just as Brees Hall was coming into his own, looking like he could potentially turn around and be a number one first round pick that you sneak off the wire, that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the
Brees Hall,
ACL tear.
torn ACL, out for the full season the rest of the way. Happening in week 7. The beginning of next season is not a given. He may or may not be ready for week 1 next year, something to keep in the back of your mind. I actually happened to make a trade, getting rid of Brees Hall in Cortland Sutton and acquiring AJ Dillon and one Jamar Chase, who prior to about 3 hours ago looked like an absolute
Ouch.
robbery of a deal because Brees Hall's
Ouch.
gone for the season. Jamar Chase went off. And now Jamar Chase, 4 to 6 weeks. He's had an existing hip injury, finally got some medical experts to look at and go, if you don't take care of this, it's going to get worse. So, take some time off. We'll see if it goes that way. He did play well last week with it, but he is definitely going to be an option for the injured reserve for the team, out for at least the next 4 games if they put him on IR. That does not include the bye week. It's not 4 weeks, it's 4 games. So A big hit on that front as well. That one breaking today is not the biggest news of the day, though. We'll get to the trade of the day later. Also, from this weekend, a high ankle sprain for one Mike Williams. That's a big loss to a lot of people who are counting on him to be like your wide receiver 2 type. Very lucky to not be worse than a high ankle sprain because Mike Williams, it looked like that could have been a broken leg, a broken ankle. It had some Dak Prescott floppy foot vibes when it happened, but did get up, did walk off the field. Some big injuries though last week that will take some time. Like we said, Brees Hall out for the season. Jamar Chase, Mike Williams looking at least a month if the reports are to be believed. Some other news: Devontae Adams missed practice with an illness. Hope there's optimism to be over it and ready to go on Sunday. I don't think he misses time. Alan Lazard himself says he does not expect to play Sunday versus Buffalo. I don't really blame him. Deebo Samuel hamstring injury not spotted at practice for the second day in a row. Sore Jamar Chase won't practice. That has gone upgraded to probably out for a while. Chuba Hubbard for the Panthers was very good last week, absent in practice with that ankle injury sustained late in the Bucs game last week. David Njoku, an ankle injury. Originally, they said 2 to 5 weeks, and Njoku says on starting up or suiting up for week 8, we'll see. So he's not ruling himself out at the very least. Tyler Lockett still dealing with the hamstring injury that's limited him for the last few days. Russell Wilson is the cringiest man in football. Working out on the plane, doing high knees in the aisle while people tried to sleep. If it was on a United flight, he would have gotten tackled by everybody.
Mr. Wilson is a part of my final thought.
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling one of us would bring him up in the final thought. Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry still not back at practice. That is not ideal. But some good news for the Bucs. Mike Evans elevated to healthy. He will be able to play tonight. Looks like Gus Edwards, Rashad Bateman, and Mark Andrews all expected to play.
I just have
good
to.
News
I just have to. Yeah, because you mentioned both of those. Because with Mike Evans, so many drops. If you just look at the 14-ish fantasy points, you tend to think you go, okay, that wasn't.
He had 14 points on the first drop if he catches it.
But if you look or listen to any portion of the game, you realize how horrible a week he had. Because and believe it or not, he was not. He was my number 3 worst because my number 2 was A.J. Dillon, 1.5 freaking fantasy points, and the number one worst performer across all 3 leagues, Mark Andrews, Buffalo tight end. Point.
I know that number very well.
0.40 freaking fantasy points for 4 rushing yards for week 7.
Yeah, not great. Some other big news for tonight's game. Bucs have ruled out wide receiver Russell Gage. Julio Jones is expected to play, though, so that's kind of a watch there. However, also out for the Bucs, Carlton Davis, Antoine Winfield, Sean Murphy Bunting in that secondary. That's going to be a massive downgrade in the secondary. So if Andrews and Bateman play, Lamar Jackson and those 2 guys might have massive performances tonight because they're playing on second string defensive backs. Also injured this weekend is Zeke Elliott with a knee contusion. Very lucky to not be more serious. He had his
Tony Pollard is a definite must play this week.
Tony Pollard is a smash play this week. Whether or not Zeke plays, it's a bad Bears team. Even though they're good on Monday night, it's a bad Bears defense. They have the potential to be very, very good with both players in that respect. So those are the major injuries from last week. Hopefully we don't get any more surprises. Darren Waller did come back to practice, so hopefully he plays if you have him in some dynasty leagues or some fantasy football redraft leagues, whichever one you want. But yeah, it was a tough week for injury. The toughest weeks for injuries we've had overall all season, I would say. And then the news of the day broke just before the Jamar Chase thing, a couple hours. The Chiefs have made a trade, a 3rd and a 6th round pick for one Kadarius Toney of the New York Giants. He was already sucked up off of waivers before I got a shot to even look. So good job, Nick, for doing all that because he got him in almost every league. But Kadarius Toney, former first-round pick, seems like he's been perennially hurt for this new Giants Dable-led team. Gets the opportunity to go to Kansas City. He's been billed as the next best thing to Kareem or Tyreek Hill when it comes to speed and that quick twitch stuff. So maybe this is a great move for the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, they have that massive, massive clump of meh at wide receiver in Juju Smith-Schuster, MVS, Nicole Hardman, Sky Moore, who looks like he just fell down the depth chart a little bit further. Chiefs, of course, on bye, so they'll have some time to integrate him into the system and be ready for week number 9. It's going to be an interesting move. Of course, if they can unlock him similar to Tyreek Hill, that is a very, very big move.
And one of the questions that we definitely have to go into week 8 will be is you tend to think it could be a well, I know we'll talk more about this tomorrow, but if they end up losing, the Broncos lose, even if it's, let's say, a close loss
They only lose close games.
With the early London game, is Nathaniel Hackett the next coaching casualty?
Yeah, they go into their bye week after this one. They can get somebody else in there. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of options right now for long term, but they could figure out somebody else for the rest of the season. They'd have 2 weeks, especially if this offense looks as bad as it has looked the last couple of weeks. There is talk of
damn bad.
There's talk of Jerry Jeudy. The Dolphins have been linked to Jerry Jeudy and Pat Surtain for the Broncos because it's such a bad situation. They might be trying to sell off and get some picks and rebuild. You got to remember, they traded away 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and some other pieces for Russell Wilson. That pick right now is a top 5 pick for Seattle for next year in the first round. So Denver might need to get some draft capital if they want to get a quarterback of the future or try and build this team around them. Because right now it looks like a very bad decision to have hired Nathaniel Hackett. It looks like a very bad decision to have traded for Russell Wilson. And maybe you fix one by getting rid of Nathaniel Hackett. Maybe Russell Wilson responds better to a coach that's, I don't know, competent. But yeah, I think if they lose, especially if they lose bad to Jacksonville, this will be the end of Nathaniel Hackett very quickly.
Well, at any time that you have a coach that needs to hire an assistant specifically for game calling decisions,
That's what the head coach is there for. The head coach is there for the decision making, the time management. They're not there to call plays. Jason Garrett, when he was the head coach of the Cowboys, did not call plays. He was the time manager. He was the decision maker on who goes in, who goes out. He didn't call plays. When he went to the Giants, he couldn't call plays. That's why that offense was so bad last year with him at the helm. Nathaniel Hackett should not be calling plays and trying to be head coach. He needs to do one or the other. And I think he's just a better offensive coordinator. You look at some guys like, I don't know, Adam Gase, who was great with Peyton Manning as a coordinator, got the chance to be a head coach more than once and was terrible more than once. And I think this is kind of what this is. He was carried by the Aaron Rodgers-led offense in Green Bay, which looks terrible now, and he's just not cut out to be a head coach. So if the Broncos lose, especially if they lose badly, Nathaniel Hackett could be gone after just 8 games. We saw Urban Meyer last, 13 last year? And that was quick, but there were some other things going on there. All right,
because you know it's something when you have a Hall of Famer Kurt Warner who basically are calling out both Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, saying both of them need to retire. That tells you something.
Yeah, Peyton Manning saying, you guys can stop. It's bad with Rodgers and Brady. Well, of course, see how Brady does tonight against that Baltimore defense. That defense has been leaky at times. I think this has very potential to be a high-scoring game. We'll get more into the game coverage here in a little bit.
Because the question is what will be worse, the first down plays for the Bucs or the fourth quarter of the Ravens?
We'll get more into that later. But right now, I have more confidence in the Ravens overall because, they've at least won some games and they've been strong for periods of time. The Bucs haven't showed up for a few weeks, it seems.
Were you able to pick up any shares of the Gus Bus?
Yeah, I got a couple. Not as many as I'd liked, but I did happen to get a couple. There was a Dynasty League. He was just buried in my IR, which worked out very nicely. But I don't know how I feel about Gus Edwards tonight. The Gus bus, everybody, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Gus Edwards coming back from that knee injury did have a massive workload last week. We'll see how he fares tonight. Tampa Bay's front seven is better than their secondary. This might be just a pass happy game. But again, we'll come back and do the full coverage of the game after we recap week number 7. I can't believe we're already 7 weeks through the season. So, quickly going back through the Thursday night game, 42-34 win for the Arizona Cardinals. Andy Dalton threw 3 picks, 2 pick sixes, and will be your starter for week number 8. Somehow he's beating out Jameis Winston while throwing more picks than Jameis Winston. Go figure. The Cardinals move to 3-4. DeAndre Hopkins unlocked this offense for the first time all season. Maybe the Cardinals get this turned around. They were a Super Bowl pick of mine. I'm regretting it immensely, but they looked a lot better this week than they have the first 6 weeks of the season without Hopkins.
Yeah, because and you're just wondering what the heck is going on with the Saints with all their injuries.
Yeah, it's tough. Marshawn Lattimore not expected to play in week 7 and week 8 against Baltimore
That's
up in the
big.
air. That's a huge loss. I mean, you see what he does to Mike Evans every time they play. He shuts him down, and Mike Evans is a fantastic wide receiver. Devontae Adams this week, if he can get over his flu. No Marshawn Lattimore. Could be a smash play in fantasy. All right, let's go to Sunday. Ravens 23-20 win over the Browns. They tried to blow it like they've done all their games. They have won the odd weeks and blown leads on the even weeks. This is week 8, so we'll get to that game here in a little bit, but it's a trend, at least at this point. A bad week for Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews for fantasy, but good enough to win. There are trade rumors around Kareem Hunt. There has been for a while. We'll see if anything matriculates out of that. Of course, we had the big Christian McCaffrey trade last week. The Rams were involved. The Broncos were involved. So maybe one of those teams goes to Cleveland and say, hey, let's make a deal here. The Ravens moved to 4-3, maintain a tie for first top of the division with the Bengals. Then the Browns are looking really bad, and it's not just Jacoby Brissett. It's not just the fact that Deshaun Watson's not playing.
Yeah, because you have yeah, you're just wondering what's going on with the Browns or they're just praying for Watson to be reinstated at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they got to get at least another win or two while he is out to be in contention when he comes back. If he comes back and they're 2-9, they're already done. So it could be a full loss season for the Browns if they can't steal a win or two in the next 4 weeks. I don't know if I believe it. I know they've got the Bengals this week and the Dolphins shortly after. Those are 2 very solid teams. And it could sneak away from the Browns. They had to get some wins. They didn't do it. Next up, the Panthers undressing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 21-3. DJ Moore, welcome back to relevance. 48% target share, a massive, massive game, and he went off. If you had the stones to play him, he most likely went off on your bench. He did play against me in the Dynasty League, and it hurt, but I still got the win. Chuba Hubbard and Dante Foreman. I don't know how to pronounce it. Timeshare, but looked really good against Tampa Bay. We'll see if they can continue that going forward. It almost looked like taking Christian McCaffrey made this more of a team instead of a one-man show. But Tampa Bay, secondary falling apart. Offense not getting going. Mike Evans, a drop on what would have been a 65-yard touchdown on the 3rd or 4th play of the game. And that just seemed to set the tone. Mike Evans wide open, dropping it, throwing it in the air, and the frustration set in.
You could just see the Bucs being absolutely deflated with that first key crucial drop. It's sort of like, OMG, why even bleeping bother at this point?
Yeah, they're in a bad headspace. They get down. They see the writing on the wall early that something might be going wrong. And instead of trying to, see what else is on that wall, because, you could say there's a commercial that says this, save yourself, and then you pull more of the wall, some money by switching to this car insurance or something like that. They're seeing save yourself, and they just wilt and give up. And that's not a good look for a team that has Tom Brady.
Yeah, especially Tom Brady earlier saying I'm 45. There's a lot of fleet going on. And apparently continues because I saw on the PFT that allegedly there's a report that Giselle is telling Tom Brady to retire or else she's gone for good. And Brady, of course, has previously stated that he's not a quitter, he's not going to give up, and he's not going to retire. So,
Before we go past that point, if you're Giselle at this point, just wait to the end of the season and put the ultimatum out there because you know he's not going to be like, all right, guys, that was a fun 7 weeks, but if it wasn't important before the season, he's not going to do it mid-season. So if you want to throw it away, but he's definitely not leaving mid-season. That's not the kind of person Tom Brady is, even if he hasn't been as good as you would hope, especially in the fantasy game. He hasn't been bad throwing the ball. He's just not getting the results.
Yeah, it's just when you have your Mike Evans do stuff like that, that just absolutely, you're just like, I can imagine how many people were yelling expletives at the TV set on Sunday.
I mean, Tom Brady was yelling at everybody, and apparently he said it on his podcast. He's not yelling at everybody else. He's really just yelling at himself. So when he yells at the offensive line, block better, you're so much effing better than this, he's really just yelling at himself.
Okay, then.
Yeah. He's got a lot of S going on, and I think he's lost his damn mind. Anyways, we'll move on. Bengals 35.
I know. I saw a meme. The Tom Brady should have just stayed retired. Changed my mind.
Oh, yeah, no, that's not up for debate. Bengals 35-17 win over the Atlanta Falcons. Jamar Chase was fantastic. He's going to be gone for a while. Tyler
that's
Boyd.
That's the main question is who does Joe Burrow throw to now when his main man is gone?
You still have Higgins. Higgins has a lot of upside and potential. You saw Tyler Boyd had a very good week last week as well. He's going to step into some prominence. And Hayden Hurst, Joe Mixon should see a little bit of an increase in their work opportunities as well. The Falcons still just don't throw the ball enough. It's all running game. So your guys like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, those highly drafted players.
If you drafted Kyle Pitts, you're hitting your head against the wall massively.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing people drop Kyle Pitts. You're seeing people bench Kyle Pitts for guys like Greg Dulcich, who are, looks good for the Broncos, but has played 2 NFL games. You're benching a guy who went 4th overall, who was supposed to be the next greatest tight end of all time, for a guy who's had 2 games and looks like just a surfer dude off the street. But the Bengals have looked much better since the week 3 game. They started 0-2. They've been 4-1 since. They beat the Dolphins in the Tua, concussion gang size game. And they've just been a much better team of late. I think they're still on track to win this division. Baltimore's been giving up too many leads, but the Bengals take care of business against the Falcons. Jamar Chase is going to hurt, but I think the Bengals are one of the few teams that have enough receiving depth.
One of the games that actually made sense on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, we both went 10-4 this week in picks, which is not a bad thing. Next up, the Cowboys.
Still, the Green Bay and Tampa outcomes, you were just like.
Yeah, there's some weird ones. Dallas 24-6 win over the Detroit Lions. No DeAndre Swift, and Amon-Ra St. Brown goes early, and then the offense just died. Khalif Raymond had some good opportunity and some good production, which shows you how that game went. Zeke Elliott, knee injury, but 2 touchdowns, did return to the game, so he's still iffy for next week, but Tony Pollard should be a smash play going forward. First game back for Dak, didn't have to do a lot. The Lions just weren't a threat in this game. The Lions 1-5, now going to host the Dolphins, who I think they need a team like Detroit to get the offense properly going for a full game.
Yeah, it's definitely an F for the Lions. Their season is way past gone, and Dan Campbell better be happy that he is a first-year coach and under protection right now.
Yeah, a little bit. Speaking of first-year coaches, Brian Daboll 6-1 with the Giants, a 23-17 win over the Jaguars. It came down to the last play. Christian Kirk caught it at the 1 and couldn't quite get in. He had 2-3 guys knocking back.
The NFC least has morphed into the NFC beast.
Yeah, you've got the NFC East very good and the AFC East very, very good, where both divisions have 3 teams above 500. The NFC East a little bit better, but both pretty solid. And their last place team is only 3-4. So both divisions very good.
Eagles, Jets, and Giants all good.
Yeah, the Jets, Giants are definitely surprises. The Eagles, I don't know if we thought they'd be 6-0 good, but I think we thought they would at least be divisional contenders. But I don't think we had any clue the Giants or the Jets were going to show up like
right
this.
Now it would be Eagles and Bills, right? If you think,
if you look at the 1 seed, yeah. Also, a bit of news from the Jaguars that we forgot about because there's so much going on. James Robinson traded to the Jets after the Brees Hall injury for a 6th-round pick that could become a 5th-round pick. 0 carries for James Robinson in this game. It was all Travis Etienne, and he looked very, very good. This might be the buy low time on Travis Etienne expiring because you could have got him for cheap beforehand. The rest of the season, he looks very potent, especially without James Robinson. James Robinson, I don't think is going to be a big factor this week, but they did say they're going to ride the hot hen. So if James Robinson can break off a couple early, it could bench Michael Carter. But Michael Carter right now is the play for the Jets if you're going to look at fantasy. It's just a very, very tough situation after Brees Hall to replace a player of that caliber.
Yeah, it's always got to be a tough when you're the head coach and you're just trying to, okay, let me slide this guy in there, and just the other one has so much potential.
Yeah, we'll get more to the Jets here in a little bit. Next up, Titans 19-10 win over the Colts. Matt Ryan has been benched for Sam Ehlinger going forward. Ryan
Who
dealing with a
likes to
shoulder
run?
injury as well. But Sam Ehlinger, we'll see what this does to his offense. Is the worst offense of football, turnover prone. The Colts have now been swept by the Titans, so they are 3-1. They've lost both games,
Do
so
you
they are a game and a half back, or really, in theory, 2 full games back.
do you think
So
this downgrades this year with how the Colts are being absolutely a train wreck? Does this downgrade Jonathan Taylor?
I don't think it downgrades Jonathan Taylor because a quarterback that can run, you've seen this with Lamar Jackson when they had that great rushing attack. You can hand the ball off, you can run. They have to respect both. With Matt Ryan, he's not going to run. It's either a play fake where he stands still or it goes to
F
Jonathan Taylor.
for anybody who took a role with Matt Ryan as their main QB right now.
Yeah, in the Dynasty League, you might have had him in some places. In a redraft, hopefully you didn't. I do think this might hurt your Alec Pierce, your Michael Pittman Jr., your Paris Campbell, who was very good last week. Those are the guys that might hurt. We'll have to see what Ehlinger is. We haven't seen him in action outside the preseason. He could be a Cooper Rush. Bailey Zappi comes in, plays really well. He could be your Teddy Bridgewater, Skylar Thompson for the Dolphins, where you go, come on, just get healthy and come back quickly, Tua. It's just a tough one. Derrick Henry, still not quite getting rolling the way you'd expect, but the rest of the season, he's got one of the best schedules available. If you can find a way to trade for him, I would do it. I know I picked him up in a dynasty. The King has returned to my roster, and so did the winning ways. So the Titans, Ryan Tannehill with an ankle injury, looks like he's going to be okay to play. But it's a tough situation with the injuries. But Tennessee, 4-2, clearly the number one team in that division. And they're surprisingly not that far back in the standings from a team like Buffalo. All right, we'll move on to the other super shocking result of the day. The Packers losing to the Commanders 23-21. Taylor Heineke looked atrocious for a quarter or so, and then he turned it on. He played a lot better. The Packers only have one weapon, and that's Aaron Jones right now. A.J. Dillon has been relegated to nothing. Cobb and Lazard both hurt. You do have Sammy Watkins, so maybe that's some hope. Romeo Dubs turned into Romeo Drops. Christian Watson still hurt. So it's a tough situation for the Green Bay Packers, and they get the reward of bad play by going and playing a nationally televised Sunday Night Football game in Buffalo against the Bills. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, because if you think about it, they're coming off of back-to-back losses to the Giants, Jets, and now the, good God, Commanders, that were 3 games that you would thought would have been guaranteed dubs for the Packers, and now they are headed to the worst places of all for a team in need of a get-right game. And as you just said, they're going to Buffalo, and that's their get-right game. And I think you can sort of use the meme. So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, Jets Giants is not as bad of a loss as you would have assumed if you said that before the season. Both teams very good. They also lost to Bailey Zapp, or they barely beat Bailey Zappi and the Patriots in his first game. And then this one to the Commanders is very, very poor. Brian Robinson has taken control of that job. He gets a lot more of the carries. Antonio Gibson did have a good week, though. But yeah, the Packers just look like a team that does not have it anymore. Speaking of a team that might have it or might have had it before the Brees Hall injuries, the Jets winning 16-9 over the Russell Wilson-less Denver Broncos. Brees Hall, I think, was 4 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown before the injury. He was off to another fantastic start. Michael Carter, solid, not spectacular in relief, but you're not replacing Brees Hall with equal talent. The Broncos, Melvin Gordon was better. He got some more work, but Latavius Murray got the touchdown. The Broncos just looked lost. Of course, when you have Brett Rippon at quarterback, you don't necessarily expect for it to go well, but we saw the Jets offense pretty much shut down once Brees Hall was out of commission. It's a 5-2 team. Can they keep it up? It's a very tough division. They still got to play Buffalo twice. They still got to play the Dolphins again. I don't like the odds of the Jets without Brees Hall, but maybe the Robinson trade saves them.
I mean, for the Broncos, you might have heard Russell Wilson stretched out on a plane for 4 hours, so that's going to take care of absolutely everything.
Yeah, high knees in the aisle while people are trying to sleep. Yeah, that's just ridiculous. The Broncos may be sellers at the trade deadline, like we had mentioned earlier. They may be in the market for a
I'm,
head coach
I'm,
sooner
I'm
rather than
sure,
later.
I'm sure you've seen some of the memes that just been spot on.
Yeah, Broncos in really, really tough shape. Speaking of teams in rough shape, we have the Raiders and the Texans next. The Raiders do get the 38-20 win. They do control this game very, very well. The Texans fall to 1-4-1. Dameon Pierce, though, has become a weapon in this league. He is a fantasy gold mine. If you got him in Dynasty anywhere, oh boy, you just might have gotten a guy that for the next 5 years is just absolutely studly. Dangerous when he's a later round pick, but he seems to have the goods. The Raiders, though, no Darren Waller. They get the job done still. Josh Jacobs is an absolute beast. If you are playing against him somewhere, you are not enjoying seeing him on the lineup on the other side of the page because he has been very good the last few weeks. A first, a third, and a first place finish on the running backs the last 3 weeks. I am playing him in a league against my wife, and I don't love it.
Yeah, I actually dropped Hunter Renfro for a pickup this week just because I figured that he's definitely in a by committee there, and he's being dominated in the worst way. And you also have a team that is just being absolute total garbage this year. So I couldn't believe it, but I actually dropped him.
Yeah, the Raiders, though, have a nice little run of easier than expected games coming up. This week they're playing New Orleans, who is a 2-5 team. Maybe they get that going, and then they can get the trend going. They have the potential to turn into a decently respectable team, at least in the record department. Speaking of teams with respectable records, the Seahawks and the Chargers, both 4-3 after the Seahawks 37-23 win over the Chargers, one that Joel called. That one I missed. I think you went for.
I got
I don't remember if
something
you went.
actually right. Woohoo!
Yeah, we both had a split. You had that one, and I had Vegas over Houston. You took Houston, so
Well, I,
this was our difference.
I was hoping and praying that the Chargers would be the good Chargers because they can be the evil Chargers sometimes. So
Yeah, the Chargers never got it going. Herbert salvaged a decent day, but the story of this one, Austin Eckler is still very, very good. And Ken Walker looks fantastic. He was a absolute beast this week. The Seahawks might be fine. DK Metcalf with a knee injury, probably not going to play this week, but doesn't look like a long-term injury. Back to that injury problem from last week. But the Seahawks 4-3 fleeced the Denver Broncos and still have a top 5 or so pick right now for next year's draft.
I mean, they've got to be laughing all the way to the draft.
Yeah. I don't feel bad for the Seahawks at all. I don't feel bad for the Broncos either, but the Seahawks coming in, making the great trade, getting rid of Russell Wilson looks like a genius move. Even if you did have to bring Drew Lock in to make it happen. All right, next up, the Chiefs 44-23 win over the San Francisco 49ers. Some takeaways here. Christian McCaffrey looked very good in his limited work. He is going to be very good for this team. If you can get him, do it. It's going to be tough, but do it. Mecole Hardman, 3 touchdowns, but the Kadarius Toney trade could throw some wrenches in. Pat Mahomes, very good at football, if you didn't know. Debo Samuel hamstring injury didn't look great in this one, but the Chiefs moved to 5-2. They are first place in that division. Stop me when it sounds repetitive. This is just a great, great team, and they look absolutely ready to go. They had the tough loss against Buffalo. This seemed to have righted the ship.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire seems to be going a little bit back better in the direction towards his normal self.
Yeah. He was the backup in this game. I benched him for A.J. Dillon because A.J. Dillon has more potential. Fortunately, I lost that game heartily, or else I'd have been very upset.
So
Yeah.
how many points did A.J. Dillon not score in your league?
He scored 1.8, and Clyde had double digits or so, but it wasn't enough to win either way.
1.8 is still more than the 1.5 he didn't score for me. Good God.
I wasn't winning that game either way. Week 6 and week 7 were bad bye weeks for me. I took losses in both.
I went 0-3, including one game that I was praying and hoping. It's like, okay, come on, Damian Harris, come on, you got to do something, dude, do something. Wah, wah.
Yeah, I got 13 leagues. 4 of them are below 500. 3 of which are 3-4 or the equivalent in the the 6 and 8 here. Sports Shuffle fans, 10-team league that we drafted live as worst team right now at 2-5, but just got DeAndre Hopkins back. It's got potential.
Yeah, because of that night that I was praying for Damian Harris to do something, of course, was the Ramondre Stevenson night.
Yeah, I'm trying to trade away Ramondre Stevenson and upgrade a quarterback in another league where I'm doing a lot better. Anyways, Sunday Night Football. Tua and the Dolphins win 16-10. It looked like the Dolphins were going to steamroll early, but they slowed down in the second half. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense, probably because Brian Flores, the former head coach, is on the other sideline in this game, started to slow them down in the second half. But
there was no duel between Stephen Ross and Brian Flores before game.
No, it's Stephen Ross's first game back allowed with the team. Brian Flores, I think, handled it pretty well. Tua, though, looked good early. Didn't have to do much late. Kenny Pickett, 3 interceptions, including one in the end zone to end the game late. The Steelers fall to 2-5. That Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record thing. There's a pretty good chance that goes away after this season.
The quarterback is toast.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett might have potential, but he's not the answer right now. But then again, neither is Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph. So you're stuck with what you've got. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, still very, very good assets for this Dolphins team. Dolphins playing the Detroit Lions, the worst defense in football, and you have two of the fastest players, not to wide receiver, not to mention Raheem Mostert, who's been very good, and Mike Gesicki starting to turn around. So that should be a fantasy bonanza. If you have any Dolphins players this week, this is the time to play him. Maybe not Chase Edmonds, but anybody else that you would have, time to play him. All right, and then surprise result number 3, the Chicago Bears winning 33-14. Not just the win, but the way they did it. Justin Fields looked fantastic. He had to run for his life a couple times and make some plays out of nothing to extend drives, but he looked fantastic. Khalil Herbert might be a thing long-term. They're talking timeshare, proper timeshare between him and David Montgomery, both with a touchdown, both with about 60 to 70 yards, both very valuable assets. If you can trade one away and upgrade at the running back position, now is the time to do so before that timeshare is fully established.
And Justin Fields had his first top 5 QB finish thanks to 82 rushing yards and a score.
Touchdown. Yep.
Fields saw 28% of design rushing attempts and now has 3 consecutive top 12 finishes.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, he's turning around. Chicago Bears, another team that's surprising in the positive direction, because we have your Bucks, we have the Packers, we have the Rams. Some of these teams falling apart, but we also have the Giants, the Bears, and the Seahawks overperforming what the expectations were. The NFC is completely wild. The AFC, I think if you look at the standings in the AFC, you go, okay, these teams, they make some sense. I mean, did we really expect Kansas City, Buffalo to be bad, Tennessee to be bad, Miami we expected to be pretty good? The Jets are the surprise. But the NFC has been a little more wacky. The Patriots benching Mac Jones, who will start in week 8, for Bailey Zappi, and all of a sudden Zappi comes in and boom, boom, 2 quick touchdowns, and you think, okay, the Patriots do have the next Tom Brady, the next guy who's going to usurp the starter and become a legend, and then they just stop doing anything on offense, and the Bears took absolute control of this game. Very surprising result. I don't know how much I believe in the Bears, but I was talking to a Bears fan at work a few days ago, and I kind of think when they go and play the Packers at Soldier Field, they might have a shot, which is something that I don't think I've been able to say for a while. So,
Yeah, this
yeah, the
Aaron
Bears,
Rodgers.
they might still suck, but they might suck a little bit less than they have in
So,
recent years.
so who do you think out of both of these two quarterbacks that who probably both should retire? Which quarterback do you think is in a worse place right now, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady?
I think it's Aaron Rodgers, and it's because of the wide receiver situation. Both offensive lines are a little beat up. Bakhtiari's out. Ryan Jensen's still out. So you've got some injuries on the offensive line that hurt. However, Tom Brady has Julio Jones coming back tonight, Russell Gage, who's hurt, but Godwin and Evans and Leonard Fournette, who I think is the best running back of the three that we can bring up between these two teams. So I think the weaponry is better for Tampa Bay. I think the division is softer than the NFC North because the Vikings are a 5-1 team coming off the bye. I don't have a lot of confidence in just the passing game for the Packers. Now, trade deadline is a week away. The Packers are rumored to be going after a wide receiver. Could be like a Chase Claypool. They could try and go after DJ Moore, even though the Panthers say they're not making that trade. They can go make a trade to get a wide receiver, and all of a sudden be back to where you expect them. Because I do think Aaron Rodgers needs a proven, reliable wide receiver to be good. You saw it with Jordy Nelson. You saw it with Devontae Adams. You saw it with several people going back whose names I am forgetting that were very good for him. And they were his blankie, his binky, his security blanket. And now he doesn't have that. He's got rookies. He's got unproven guys. Allen Lazard is their best wide receiver, and Allen Lazard shouldn't be a team's number one receiver. He is a great number 2 or 3. He is
Was
not a number 1.
Didn't I see a post where he had a sling on?
Yeah, he's going to be out for a while. He is doubtful to play this week, but he should be. It's going to be iffy. But yeah, I feel a lot more confidence that Brady can get it done than Rodgers right now, just because the weaponry around him is better. So let's talk about Brady a little bit because we're going to go to the Thursday night game. Tom Brady and those aforementioned weapons, Leonard Fournette, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, probably at least Evans, Godwin have to be in your lineup. Fournette, probably. Brady, you might have to look around because he's got that upside. He hasn't had touchdowns. He's got upside. He's got the arms to look good, but they're not finishing drives, and that is very concerning. And you have Evans dropping easy touchdowns. So Kate Otten, also a threat at the tight end position because tight end is very, very bad. Now, let's quickly go over the inactives. Gus Edwards, Mark Andrews, and Rashad Bateman, all active for this game, which is bad news for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For the Bucs, no real surprises. Carlton Davis, Akeem Hicks, Murphy Bunting, and Winfield all out on the defensive side of things. Also, no Cameron Brate and Russell Gage on offense, and Luke Goedeke out on the offensive line. So, a pretty tough ask for the Bucs with all of those injuries. Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters active for the Ravens, so it looks like the Ravens getting healthier, the Bucs getting weaker. For the Ravens, you're playing Lamar Jackson. He's been too good. He's been a little soft of late, but he's been too good all season to bench him for any other options. You also have Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman. I think they have to go in your lineups as well. And Gus Edwards, maybe not a must start, but he's a must consider for at least that RB2 and flex position. Tampa Bay at home. Thursday Night Football, home team tends to do better than the road team. Baltimore has won every game on the odd week and blown every lead on the even week. This is week 8. That is an even week. If that pattern continues, it's going to be a good night for Tampa Bay at some point. It's going to look bad, but it's going to finish well. If they can break that trend, Baltimore will go to 5-3 and have a share of that division lead at worst at the end of the week. Joel, I know you're a Bucs fan. I see the Bucs hat. Do you take your team, or do you see the road team coming in and causing some problems?
I have to say, going with the road team coming in and causing some problems, especially when you look how horrible the Bucks played on Sunday against the Panthers. You're just going, what happened to the team? And did they know that there was a game at 1 p.m.? You're having a Baltimore 60 on the 33rd team site. You're having Baltimore not 65.7 for spread picks. You're having for money picks 74.2% for Baltimore. Chance to win, Baltimore 51%. They're projecting the game Baltimore 22.5 to 21.5 for Tampa. But so I think that the Bucks can be competitive and they can keep it close because we know Baltimore's tendency to choke in the fourth quarter. But I tend to think that it's going to be more important with the ineffectiveness what the Bucks do on first down, and for some reason they cannot figure out the first down and what to do. And when you're dealing with that on a consistent and persistent basis, and we're talking about a horrible loss, it's been a very short week, so the Bucks have thought after thought and again and again and again mentally over and over about the absolute beating they took from the Panthers on Sunday, and that's the mental image and the general mentality that they have going into this game tonight. I mean, when you're looking at the images from the game, what you said, Tom Brady yelling at his offensive line on the bench. That's what, thankfully, no service tablets were broken. The service tablets were okay, they're safe, but that's the general mood and mentality and atmosphere the Bucks are going into this game. It's not a good place to be in right now, and I tend to think that the Bucks are going to drop another one, and it's going to have a long time off before the next game for them to think about what they need to do to get it right.
Yeah, I think it's more the defensive losses this week that are going to cost the Bucks this game. I do see Rashad Bateman. I do see Mark Andrews playing and playing very well. They're going to have their opportunities to be big. And then Lamar Jackson causes a unique set of problems for any team, let alone one that's beat up. And it seems like he always shows up in the big prime time games, the big moments. He seems to show up and play as well as anybody else. So we're both going to be on Baltimore. We'll see if the trend for Baltimore blowing a lead on the even weeks continues because they've done it. But Tampa Bay looks like they're in just such bad shape right now. We're going to take Baltimore and go with. So with that, let's move to final thoughts. And Joel, you are away.
All right, that's when you're trying to get the wonderful mouse pointer to go to where you want to go. It's really fun when you're using your non-dominant hand predominantly.
Yeah, he's still dealing with the hand injury.
Anywho, just one of the whole things that one of the positive things about Halloween is that they have somebody has taken Halloween costumes and they have just made a whole bunch of them for different celebrities, and one of the ones they ended making them for was, of course, Russell Wilson, and the name of this one is called Fraud. In,
Ooh,
in
that's rough.
includes 2 wins, 4 losses, creepy subway ads, Wolverine blood, requires $245 million, and so that's just after the whole uh, Danger Witch press conference that was just you're going you're borrowing from Queen. Is this the real life? Is this reality? But yeah, when you had that moment happen and you're just going, okay, is this a press conference or is this an ad? So that just sort of demonstrates where the mindset is. It's like, don't worry about the ads, don't worry about the subway. Keep that outside the game, away from the press conference, and focus on the game. And it's just Russell Wilson has had just an absolutely unbelievably bad start to the season, and I don't see it getting any better. And that's my final thought.
Yeah. So all right, Let's talk some jerseys. Um, I don't know if we didn't cover this because of the injury to Joel's hand, and I feel like I need to bring it up. The Chicago Bears on Thursday Night Football a couple of weeks ago wore orange helmets on orange jerseys, but the orange helmets didn't quite match the jerseys. They were slightly darker, and it bothered the hell out of me. The NFL has allowed teams to bring back alternate helmets or different colored helmets or throwback helmets for the first time ever. Not every team took advantage of it. In fact, there were only 8 teams that did. The Bengals with the white Bengal. We saw that on the Thursday night game where Tua got his bell rung against the Dolphins, the all white look. Not bad, not my favorite. The Washington Commanders have a black alternate helmet. That whole jersey scheme is trash. The Giants have a 90s throwback. That'll be fine. The Saints with their black alternate, I really, really like. The Cardinals embrace the darkness, what they call it. It's the black and red. I called it out last week. There's a little bit of red metallic flake that shows through. Very nice. Probably the best one of the group. The Patriots with the Patriot Pat, the old school Patriot hiking the football. Not bad. The Bears, I think, have the worst one with the orange alternate. And then the Falcons with a red throwback. That'll be fine. But yeah, if you look online, find the pictures from that game. Just search Bears orange on orange uniforms. They will be back in action on this week's game against Dallas as well, who's going to be wearing blue. It's going to be a color on color game. You can clearly see the helmets are not the same color as the jersey. They're just a touch off, just a little too dark. And how do you screw that up? You're a multi-billion-dollar franchise. You can't get the color correctly. I know a place I worked was affiliated loosely with the Lightning. They paid a little extra and got the exact shade of lightning blue on the outside of the building because that's what you can do because it's a very specific color. The Sharks, it's a teal. It's not just teal, it is Pacific teal. The Dolphins, it's not teal, it's aqua. If you don't know that, you're going to get the wrong color when you ask for what it is. So, terrible job for the Bears getting the helmet to not match the orange on orange look. Credit to the Cardinals for the great helmet with the black jerseys. Looks very, very clean, very, very nice. And third, and most important, the Dolphins need to get rid of their current jerseys and go back to the throwbacks they wore on Sunday Night Football, those 1970s, 1980s look. Those are perfection. Go back to those full time. They tend to win in those also, but go back to those full times. It was a sign of a better era, and it's just a much better look than the Dolphins jersey.
Maybe the Bucks need to go back to the 1976 era.
I mean, they went back to the Super Bowl era and immediately got a Super Bowl. The Bucks have very good jerseys now. They got away from the alarm clock, but I wouldn't mind if they did the creamsicle orange once in a while again. But yeah. So for jerseys, screw the Bears orange on orange. Credit to the Cardinals for the black with the red flake, metallic flake in the helmet. That's very, very nice. Probably the best alternate so far. And then for the Dolphins, go back, make that your primary from last Sunday night against the Steelers because that is the best jersey in football, bar none. Anyways, that's our time. Any more injuries in the last 20 minutes? Nope. So we're good. Nobody fell down and broke their toe going downstairs or sneezing and breaking a rib like, what was it, Greg Maddox or something like that a few years way back. World Series starts tomorrow?
Or there was somebody that actually fell down. I think the actual baseball stairs into a dugout. I'm blocking who that was, but that was an actual injury.
Yeah, World Series is set, starts tomorrow. Astros and Phillies. I think this is the first time ever that most of the country is going to be rooting for a Philadelphia-based team. But yeah, it's hard to root for the Astros, even though they're probably doing things the right way now. It's hard to root for the Astros after the whole thing.
Bang the trash cans, yeah.
That being said, if I had to make a pick, I'd say Astros in 5. Just because the Astros are dominant. They haven't lost in the postseason yet, and it seems unlikely they're going to stub their toe bad enough to lose the series.
But best part is Yankees lose. Yeah, Yankees lose.
Yeah, that series had to have an unfortunate winner, and it has a very happy loser for the rest of the country. Of Rays fans, I think we'd rather see the Yankees lose than the Astros win at this point. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Apparently, Cashman is still there.
Yeah. So yeah, you got a pick for the World Series?
I'm not really excited about it going back in the past with, of course, the Rays and the Phillies. So I can't really. It's like picking between two evils almost, but I'm gonna have to hold my nose and go Phillies because I just can't root for the Astros after recent events. But oh, it so hurts as a Rays fan remembering that World Series back in the days of yore and just the rain, and you're wondering that if the Rays didn't get the run and didn't get the hits, that they wouldn't have even continued the freaking game. So just, it hurts going for the Phillies, but I can't go for the Astros.
Yeah, I'm rooting for the Phillies. But I just think the Astros are a superior team. So, all right, that's our time. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow to cover the rest of Week 8. Hopefully, no major injuries tonight, and no more new developments like Jamar Chase. Maybe we'll get some trades. Trade deadline is Tuesday next week, I believe. It's next week after the games have concluded, obviously. So I think it's either Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it's Tuesday. I could look, but I'm not going to because we're done. But yeah, football about an hour and 5 minutes away. Bucks hosting the Ravens, and hopefully that's a good game. So I am, of course, flying Ryan Gilchrist, along with, as always,
Tampa Motor Mouth, Joel Verlin.
and he's wearing the pain of the Rays right behind his shoulder today. So Rays got injured at the wrong time this year, but they'll be a good team next year, and hopefully they'll make a run before they move out of town because it seems like that's
When
more
the
and more
odds are
likely
saying
every day.
when the odds are saying you'll never win, that's when the grin should start. You gotta have heart.
Yeah. So, all right. Good luck with any fantasy expectations and players tonight, and we will be back tomorrow to talk
Let's
about
not
week
suck
number
for
8.
week 8. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been on a little bit of heater with picks, so hopefully we kick the